If you're new to shooting 35mm film, how do you load the camera? Well, let me just show you a couple of ways that maybe there's some tips will be useful to you. The first thing to remember is that you've got to open the camera back. Now, this is a Nikon F3. It has a lock so the back doesn't accidentally open. Some cameras did, some cameras didn't. But generally, you pull up this rewind crank and the back pops open. On this camera and on others, there's a little lock there that you have to press out of the way, and then you open the film back up like that. Now, there's the shutter. So you don't touch the shutter. Whatever you do, you don't touch the shutter. It's delicate. This one is cloth. Some of them are metal. The metal ones are very delicate. They're very thin titanium. You don't touch them. You could easily ruin the shutter. Then the camera will be toast because there's no parts. Now, so basically to load the film, it's quite simple. It is important that you do load it properly though, because otherwise you'll be out shooting for 2 weeks and the film hasn't gone through. So I've got my rewind crank. I've got the canister. The canister goes on this side. You can push that little crank down. And it feeds into the tabs on this side. So basically, fresh film is pulling out of the canister across the shutter. Now, this film that you see here is all ruined because it's fog. So the fresh film is inside the canister. Now, it doesn't hurt to rewind this a little bit and get some tension on there. Two reasons. First off, you can tell that you've got film in the camera. But secondly, you can see it winding, and that shows you that it's pulling across and is loading properly. Every photographer has done two things. They've taken pictures without film in the camera, and because you can't really tell unless you check. And the other thing they've done is they've loaded it improperly, and then the film never went through. So they're out shooting their holiday pictures, their vacation pictures, and the film does never go through the camera. It's just a blank roll. So it doesn't hurt to have that little rewind crank tension there, and you can see when you wind. Now, with this fresh film, the shutter is right there, and you can see the shutter, but it's not fogging the film because the shutter is closed. But when I press the button, poof, there's the film right there. I'm ruining this right now, but there's the film, and then it rewinds to the next fresh frame. So very simple idea, simple to do, but you have to do it correctly. Now, at the end of the roll, it won't wind any further. You might have got 36 shots, you might have got 37, 38, 35, whatever, but it just, in the middle of winding, it'll stop. You don't want to force it now, because you could break the film, but you've got to rewind the exposed film over here, back into the canister. You don't have to wait to the end of the roll. You could do it mid-roll. If you're very careful, you could do it mid-roll, take the film out, put another one in, another style, and then reload that half roll that you've just shot. But that's another question. Now, to get the film back into the canister, that's something that you're going to want to learn how to do. Now, we've got the crank ready. There's a gear here, and this button right here releases that gear. Now, not all the cameras have a button, but most do. It's a button, but sometimes it's a little lever on top. Maybe it has an R for rewind, so when you want to rewind, you flip it into that area. With that button pushed, you can easily wind the film back into the canister. And if you listen, you'll hear it. There it was. So now it's going back into the canister. I can safely open the back, and there's my film right there. Off to the lab with this. So that's the way most people load it. There is another way, and this seems to work well with motor drives if you have a motor drive on your camera. Instead of putting the cassette in first and pulling across to the tab, put the tab in first and just pull the film across. Push the rewind crank down. I'm over those gears. That's good. I want to be over those gears. Probably don't want to be at 4 seconds. You might as well be at a 30th or so, right? You can see that it's engaged. You can see that it's loaded properly. Now, close the back, fire off a couple of frames, and you're off to the races. So there's two ways to load it, and at the end of the roll, you wind it back in. It's very simple, but if you do it wrong, then you might be taking pictures with no film going through the camera, which everybody has done. So the only other things that you really need to do is you've got to set the ISO on the camera so that the meter in the camera knows how sensitive the film was. So on this camera, there's a little dial right there. You set the ISO. Other cameras you pull up and twist over, things like that. Every camera is a little bit unique, but you have to tell the meter how sensitive the film is, so you set the ISO. And the other thing I would do is I would take the end of the film box that says, you know, Tri-X or Kodacolor, whatever it says. I would take the end of it, cut it off, and I would slip it down into here so that I can tell what film is in it. Now, if I'm going out today and I'm shooting 4 rolls of the same film, it doesn't really matter. But if I'm going to load the camera today and I'm going to shoot film over the next 4 or 5 weeks, 2 months, 5 months, who knows, it would be good if I knew what kind of film was in there. So it's advantageous to clip the end of the film box and just slide it in this little holder. Some cameras, not this one, but some cameras had a little window here where you could actually see the film, and that was beneficial too. I've heard that sometimes they let light in as the cameras get older. The foam that's supposed to block all the light from coming in deteriorates, but some have a little window. This one doesn't. And this is a very basic camera anyways, well made, but it's very basic. So you're off shooting your first few rolls of film. Enjoy it, get them processed, see how it looks.